Hello, good morning, Sunday, January 26th. Welcome. We are here at 11 a.m. Central Time every morning on TikTok, doing this live, using A Course in Miracles as a framework for a discussion about the mind, our thoughts, creation, uh, manifestation, mindset, all those types of ideas we go over on this channel and during this live. So we cover one workbook lesson from the Course in Miracles per day, according to the Course in Miracles, and then we also read part of the text. I want to start today, though, and welcome to the people who are stopping by and showing up, hanging out for a second. We appreciate it. Thanks for stopping. Before we get to the Course in Miracles and the lesson for today, I want to very quickly talk about the Kabbalion, which is a very short book, a fairly short book, a smaller book, which outlines Hermetic principles, the 7 Hermetic laws and Hermetic principles, okay, of the universe. And it's called the Kabbalion. And the first principle that I want to read this quick summation of the first principle, which is the principle of mentalism, that all is mind and that the universe is mental, because we can take that as a background and a foundation for all the studies that we're engaging in with Course in Miracles. Course in Miracles is effective, and it is a mind training program. And it is effective because the universe is mental. The universe is mind. So very quickly, the Kabbalion, the first principle, this is sort of a summation and an introduction to the Kabbalion. The principle of mentalism, the all is mind, the universe is mental. And it says, this principle embodies the truth that all is mind. It explains that the all, which is the substantial reality underlying all the outward manifestations and appearances, the real substance that underlies all the outward manifestations and appearances, which of course Course in Miracles talks about, is mental. The substantial reality is mental. It underlies all the outward manifestations and appearances which we know under the terms of the material universe, the phenomenon of life, matter, energy, and in short, all that is apparent to our material senses is spirit, which in itself is unknowable and undefinable, but which may be considered and thought of as a universal, infinite, living mind. It also explains that all the phenomenal world or universe is simply a mental creation of the all. The phenomenal world or universe is simply a mental creation of the all, in which mind we live and move and have our being. This principle, by establishing the mental nature of the universe, easily explains all the very mental and psychic phenomena that occupy such a large portion of public attention and which, without such explanation, are non-understandable and defy scientific treatment. So you're starting to, of course, we're starting to see this in this day and age with the quantum mechanics and quantum physics, right? People like Dr. Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, other people, plenty of other people are starting to talk about the fact that consciousness is the base. Consciousness is the source of everything. And here, this is contained in the Hermetic principles, which go back deep into antiquity. It's part of Egyptian teachings, Egyptian metaphysical and spiritual teachings in a deep ancient history. Okay, Hermes, of course, was the Greek name for Thoth, taught, Thoth, who is the represented in the Egyptian pantheon. Okay, Thoth, kind of the foundation or source of our word thought. Okay. Also, there was another guy I saw, Joe Rogan. You can look up Joe Rogan and Thomas Campbell. Thomas Campbell gave, in that Joe Rogan interview, the best explanation I've heard so far of this idea that's coming out of quantum physics and quantum mechanics, that we're living in a simulation. Of course, the ancient teachings and the mystery schools and Hindu philosophy, Eastern philosophy, says that the world is an illusion. Okay, and Course in Miracles calls it a dream. And this guy, Thomas Campbell, they're starting to use the word simulation, which is basically the same thing. It's a hologram or on a holodeck. And right here in the Kabbalion, which is pulled from ancient teachings, the idea is we live and move and have our being in a mental universe. It says an understanding of this great Hermetic principle of mentalism enables the individual to readily grasp the laws of the mental universe, which are the laws which are discussed in A Course in Miracles, which are the laws that are being developed throughout the workbook of Course in Miracles. Okay, so if you're going through the workbook of A Course in Miracles, one lesson per day, we are exercising our mind along the laws of the mental universe. It says, an understanding of this great Hermetic principle of mentalism enables the individual to readily grasp the laws of the mental universe and to apply the same to his well-being and advancement. The Hermetic student is enabled to apply intelligently the great mental laws instead of using them in a haphazard manner. Again, Course in Miracles talks about mind training. It says that we have an undisciplined mind. Here, the same thing, using the great mental laws in a haphazard manner. That's an undisciplined mind. It says, with the master key in his possession, the student may unlock the many doors of the mental and psychic temple of knowledge and enter the same freely and intelligently. This principle explains the true nature of energy, power, and matter, and why and how all these are subordinate to the mastery of mind. One of the old Hermetic masters wrote long ages ago, quote, he who grasps the truth of the mental nature of the universe is well advanced on the path to mastery, end quote. And these words are as true today as at the same time they were first written. Without this master key, mastery is impossible, and the student knocks in vain at the many doors of the temple. So the principle of mentalism, just a quick outline there, a quick preface today, 5-10 minutes there at the top of the hour to give a background and some foundation to why studying A Course in Miracles is important. It is the master key. Understanding that the universe is mental and understanding that the creative powers of the universe are mastered and unlocked through mental discipline, mental training, okay, is the key to mastery. So today is Sunday, January 26th, the 26th lesson of Course in Miracles. Says my attack thoughts are attacking my invulnerability. So the first 50 lessons, we are undoing the ego mind. We are trying to recognize the nature of the ego mind, the separate mind, the mind that attacks the left side of the brain, if you will, the sort of masculine energy that dissects, the penetrating intellect. Now, in it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can be misused, just like anything. If it's not in balance with the right side of the brain, the intuitive side of the brain, if the brain is not balanced, if the masculine is not balanced with the feminine, then you start running into problems. So we are entering into an age, of course, right now, and a frequency and a vibration where the feminine is coming back into prominence. Okay, now you don't want to make the same mistake we just made and go too far into the feminine, using masculine principles to push the feminine too far ahead and fall too far into the feminine. Want to find the balance. Okay, but in any case, the first 50 lessons of Course in Miracles are addressing that ego mind. How do we sort of dissolve the ego mind, start to see and witness how it operates, so that we can let it go and it can be replaced by a truer mind, a higher consciousness, so we can begin to approach the true self, capital S. My attack thoughts are attacking my invulnerability. It says, it is surely obvious that if you can be attacked, you are not invulnerable. You see attack as a real threat. That is because you believe that you can really attack. Okay, so sort of a mind principle here and a law of the mind here. If I think I can attack, then I think, whether I acknowledge it or not, that I can be attacked. I don't want to be attacked, which is why I seemingly attack. But really, what happens first is I attack. We're trying to go back inside, realize that the answer is not outside. The outside is an effect, the inside is the cause and the source. It says you see attack as a real threat, and that is because you believe that you can really attack. And what would have effects through you must also have effects on you. It is this law, a law of mentalism, that will ultimately save you, but you are misusing it now. You must therefore learn how it can be used for your own best interests rather than against them. And remember, yesterday the lesson was, I do not perceive my own best interests. The ego mind knows nothing. The ego mind cannot succeed. The ego mind is constantly confused. It is constantly attacking or believing that it is being attacked, and so does not understand what its own best interests are, because my own best interests have nothing to do with the ego mind. My own best interests have to do with the Holy Spirit and the mind of God. Because your attack thoughts will be projected, you will fear attack. And if you fear attack, you must believe that you are not invulnerable. Attack thoughts, therefore, make you vulnerable in your own mind, which is where the attack thoughts are. Attack thoughts and invulnerability cannot be accepted together. They contradict each other. The idea for today introduces the thought that you always attack yourself first. Okay? It's an important idea, important concept to think about, contemplate, meditate on. The idea for today introduces the thought that you always attack yourself first. If attack thoughts must entail the belief that you are vulnerable, their effect is to weaken you in your own eyes. Thus, they have attacked your perception of yourself. And because you believe in them, you can no longer believe in yourself. A false image of yourself has come to take the place of what you are. So right there, paragraph 3 in lesson 26, there's the whole key right there, right? Attack thoughts, attack myself. I therefore, whether I acknowledge it or not, and this is really more of a subconscious belief, it's not really recognized, right? I attack, and therefore I realize I can be attacked. If I'm attacked, that means I'm weak. It means I'm not invulnerable. If I think I'm weak, I've already attacked myself. I've attacked the perception of myself. I start to believe it. Then I do not believe in myself. I do not believe in my strength. I do not believe in my invulnerability. Practice with today's idea will help you to understand that vulnerability, or victimhood, if you will, that vulnerability or invulnerability is the result of your own thoughts. Nothing except your thoughts can attack you. It can be but myself that I attack is a central idea of Course in Miracles. Nothing except your thoughts can attack you. Nothing except your thoughts can make you think you are vulnerable. And nothing except your thoughts can prove to you this is not so. Nobody can attack me. The president cannot attack me. A political party cannot attack me. Okay? The electric company cannot attack me. The mortgage company, the banks cannot attack me. My true state of being, my true state of existence, the way I was created, is, was, and forever shall be invulnerable. I cannot be attacked. And the idea here is that the true self has never been attacked. The true self has never been injured. The true self is invulnerable to attack. The true self is one consciousness, one mind. It cannot be attacked. One thing cannot attack itself. As soon as it thinks it's capable of attacking itself, it's split itself into two, which is necessary for creation, which is necessary for the third dimension. But then I have to be in the world and not of it, and understand that my mental state needs to be unified. The practice period should begin with repeating the idea for today, closing your eyes, reviewing the unresolved questions whose outcomes are causing you concern. The concern may take the form of depression, worry, anger, a sense of imposition, being imposed upon, fear, foreboding, or preoccupation, right? Intrusive thoughts is what I see all over TikTok right now. People talking about intrusive thoughts. That's a sense of preoccupation. So we're going to think about those thoughts. Any problem as yet unsettled that tends to recur in your thoughts during the day is a suitable subject. You name the situation. I'm concerned about blank, whatever that intrusive thought is. Then go over every possible outcome that has occurred to you in that connection and which has caused you concern, referring to each one quite specifically, saying, I'm afraid blank will happen. So I'm worried about something and I'm afraid of a certain outcome. Okay? I'm worried about my mortgage and I'm afraid I'm going to get evicted. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my house. Okay? If you're doing the exercises properly, you should have 5 or 6 distressing possibilities available for each situation you use. After you have named each outcome of which you are afraid, because we're trying to locate the fear because the fear is not real. And once I understand who and what I really am, it is guaranteed the fear will disappear, which is a state of invulnerability, which is the state of salvation. My salvation comes about because of me. I am my own salvation. After you have named each outcome of which you are afraid, tell yourself that thought is an attack upon myself. So we're trying to identify the places and the times and the thoughts that I'm using to attack myself. Of course, an attack thought is like, I can't, I'm not going to be able to, I won't, I don't want to. Sort of these negative thoughts and feelings and situations, negative outcomes that I think I don't want, okay, that are causing me distress. And the foundational emotion is fear. Okay, there's only 2 emotions, according to A Course in Miracles, love or fear. Fear doesn't exist. Fear is false. Fear is an illusion. There's really only one emotion, love, and all its derivatives: peace, happiness, fulfillment, uh, harmony. Okay, those are all derivatives or other forms of love. So now, chapter 4, section 2 is the corresponding section of the text that we'll read today with lesson 26, and it's called the ego and false autonomy. So the ego is a replicant. Okay, the ego is a false copy. You can, that's part of the Gnostic teachings, of course, that there's a demiurge, there's a false copy of a god, an archon that's running the world, that's running the universe. A fallen angel, Satan, is false representation. If you think of angels as thoughts, the satanic thought that I'm more powerful than my creator. I was thinking about this the other day. This idea that AI, you ever hear these guys talk about the AI and the large language models and all these types of things? And the real proponents, the Larry Ellisons, the guys that are the tech bros that are at the very top, right? They think that AI is going to be smarter than the human that created it, that artificial intelligence is going to be smarter and is going to supersede human intelligence, which is really spiritual intelligence, which is really God intelligence. Okay. The angel thought it was higher than its creator, was Satan, and it was cast out of heaven. So just use that as a metaphor. Artificial intelligence that thinks that these guys think can be smarter than the code written by the human beings. It's a satanic thought. I mean, right? I'm not trying to say like these guys are Satanists or anything. It's the programmable code of artificial intelligence cannot be, the output cannot be greater than the input. It's amazing. They absolutely believe it, of course. And here we go. It's a big part of the discussion right now. It's where we're headed. Artificial intelligence is going to be smarter than human beings. We need artificial intelligence because human beings aren't smart enough to run this planet. Is a crazy idea. Okay, human beings, the species needs to turn back within, to return to the source, to realize that we did not create ourselves, that there is a creator, there is a mind and intelligence greater than our own, and we need to align with that, vibrate in concert with that, come back, into union with that mind and consciousness. We'll be fine. That's what A Course in Miracles, in my humble opinion, is talking about. That's what the mind training is about. Okay, bring yourself back into alignment with a higher power. Bring yourself back into alignment with the creator. This is a mental universe. Go back. I put this stuff up on YouTube. I put these lives. I downloaded, put it up on YouTube. Go to my YouTube channel, SVC201, or I changed it to Steve O.C.'s, same as the name here. So go to the YouTube channel, Steve O.C.'s. I upload these lives every day. Go back to the beginning. I talked about today the Kabbalion as sort of an opener to this lesson today, that the universe is mental. So come back into alignment with the higher intelligence, the higher mind that created you, that created us. Everything will be fine. Everything will work out. We don't need artificial intelligence. We don't need code in a computer running the world. It's kind of funny. It's very interesting, though. Okay, so enough said. The ego and false autonomy. The ego does not have any autonomy. The ego, in reality, doesn't exist. So check this out. It is reasonable to ask how the mind could ever have made the ego. In fact, it is the best question you could ask. There is, however, no point in giving an answer in terms of the past because the past does not matter. And history would not exist if the same errors were not being repeated in the present. I love that sentence. Abstract thought applies to knowledge because knowledge is completely impersonal. And examples are irrelevant to its understanding. Perception, however, is always specific and therefore quite concrete. Everyone makes an ego or a self for himself, which is subject to enormous variation because of its instability. He also makes an ego for everyone else he perceives, which is equally variable. So here's where the trouble begins, eh? Everything, all these variables that have to be managed. Their interaction is a process that alters both because they were not made by or with the unalterable, capital U. It is important to realize, okay, it alters both because they were not made by or with God. The ego was not made by or with God. The ego is a separate idea, a separate thought, literally the thought of separation, the thought of complete independence, called an insane thought by the Course in Miracles. It is important to realize that this alteration can and does occur as readily when the interaction takes place in the mind as when it involves physical proximity. Thinking about another ego is as effective in changing relative perception as is physical interaction. There could be no better example that the ego is only an idea and not a fact. Okay, this section goes on for quite some time. I can't read the whole thing. I'll just pick a few important ideas out for us here for today as we finish up this live. The idea which it starts to talk about then is, it asks the question, why or how was the ego made? And it starts to answer it by saying, it's this idea of wanting to be separate. But then after it's been made, it's sort of treated as a creation. It's not a creation because it's not in line with the creator, but it's been made. And so I treat it like a child. I treat it like my possession. And then it takes over itself. And so it says, your reactions to the self you made are not surprising. In fact, they resemble in many ways how you will one day react to your real creations, which are as timeless as you are. Question is not how you respond to the ego, but what you believe you are. Belief is an ego function, and as long as your origin is open to belief, you are regarding it from an ego viewpoint. My origin should be known, is what it's saying. Knowledge is from the spirit. When teaching is no longer necessary, you will merely know God. Belief that there is another way of perceiving is the loftiest idea of which ego thinking is capable. That is because it contains a hint of recognition that the ego is not the self, capital S. Undermining the ego's thought system must be perceived as painful, even though this is anything but true. Babies scream in rage if you take away a knife or scissors, although they may well harm themselves if you do not. In this sense, you're still a baby. So in scripture, in the Bible, suffer the little children. Let the children, the Christ mind, Christ consciousness, the I am, says, let the little children approach me. Let the ego mind, let the ego consciousness approach me. Don't condemn it. Don't send it away. It's childish. It's undeveloped. In this sense, you are still a baby. You have no sense of real self preservation and are likely to decide that you need precisely what would hurt you most. Okay. And it goes on. The ego starts to describe the ego. The ego literally lives by comparisons. Equality is beyond its grasp, and charity becomes impossible. The ego never gives out of abundance because it was made as a substitute for it. Mhm. That is why the concept of getting arose in the ego's thought system. Appetites are getting mechanisms representing the ego's need to confirm itself. This is as true of body appetites as it is of so-called higher ego needs. Okay, think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What the body wants and needs, okay, food, warmth, sex, all these things, body appetites are getting mechanisms representing the ego's need to confirm itself, which is why in Egyptian mysticism, uh, uh, um, the ego and the body are married. Nephthys and Set are married. They're brother and sister. The ego mind goes with the body, and the body impulses, the body desires, the body's needs are attempts of the ego to affirm itself, to make itself real. Body appetites are not physical in origin. The ego regards the body as its home and tries to satisfy itself through the body. But the idea that this is possible is a decision of the mind, which has become completely confused about what is really possible. So that paragraph there, paragraph 7, chapter 4, section 2, there are some really deep implications there if you really think about what is being said. Appetites are getting mechanisms representing the ego's need to confirm itself. Okay? Have you ever heard of these people? Breatharians, maybe, I think they're called. But the people that don't eat, they seem to continue to live. Interesting, right? And it continues, talks about myths and magic. Mythological systems generally include some account of the creation and associate this with its particular form of magic. Again, it's talking about what is derived and implied from the ego, from a sense of separation. Okay, so for instance, the Big Bang Theory, which this is just an observation. I'm not putting down creationism or the scientific idea of how the universe started. But for instance, the Big Bang Theory, if you really think about it, as it says here, myths and magic. The Big Bang Theory is a myth. It's magic because it talks about gases being compressed and then being compressed to such a degree that they explode. And then the universe was created. Okay. But you have to not ask the question, where did the gases come from and why and how were they compressed? You cannot ask those questions. Science can't explain that. Science can't really come to an origin like that. And in fact, neither can religion. When you finally get back to God, when you finally come back to pure consciousness, it's emptiness, right? You read Eastern scripture, if you understand Eastern teachings, okay, when you meditate and come to the true self, when you actually achieve that state of consciousness, it's emptiness. It's called emptiness. And earlier, I think we read from the Kabbalion that the idea of God is unknowable and unnameable. Same idea. When you get back to the origin, it's great mystery. There's nothing there. It can't be explained. So it's the same thing with science. Okay, the origin of the universe cannot be explained from a scientific or from a religious standpoint. You know, where did God come from? Can't ask that. I went to Catholic schools. I went to parochial schools. Can't ask that question. Where did God come from? God is, was, and ever shall be. You're going to have to kind of deal with that. God exists outside of time. And yet, the only thing we seem to be experiencing here is time. So there's your paradox. Don't try to figure it out with your rational mind. As we get toward the end here of this part of the text, it cannot be emphasized too often that correcting perception is merely a temporary expedient. It is necessary only because misperception is a block to knowledge, while accurate perception is a stepping stone toward it. So it starts talking about right perception here, right mind, if you will, from a Buddhist perspective. We're just trying to train the ego. The ego, as we saw yesterday, as I talked about yesterday, teaching and learning, a teacher and a learner. We are here to learn. We are here to learn, recondition the ego. The ego has to get closer and closer to the experience of the self. As it gets closer and closer, it releases more and more of itself. It dissolves more and more of itself, which is why there is such resistance to it, because it quote unquote has to die. There has to be an ego death to get to the higher self, which, it resists. It resists. That which is created doesn't want to die. It wants to maintain its existence. Go watch Blade Runner. Go listen to what Rutger Hauer has to say. I want more life, he tells his creator right before he pokes his eyes out. Okay. And that's about it. This is the last paragraph. It says the whole value of right perception, right knowledge, right knowing lies in the inevitable realization that all perception is unnecessary. This removes the block entirely. You may ask how this is possible. As long as you appear to be living in this world. This is a reasonable question. You must be careful, however, that you really understand it. Who is the you, quote unquote, who are living in this world? Spirit is immortal, and immortality is a constant state. It is as true now as it ever was or ever will be, because it implies no change at all. Immortality and eternity imply no change at all. It is not a continuum, nor is it understood by being compared to an opposite. Knowledge never involves comparisons. That is its main difference from everything else the mind can grasp. As usual, please go to acim.org, ACIM, A Course in Miracles.org online. If you do not have the book, A Course in Miracles, go online. It's all online. As you can see, I've been through this book a few times, to say the least, over the past 25 years, working with other people, working with a group to understand and practice A Course in Miracles. But you can find it online. And as I said, you could also go to the my YouTube channel. I will upload this later in the day. And go, if you missed part of the discussion, you can go back and check it out. Thanks everyone for being here. Did somebody leave me a message. No. In any case, peace and blessings. Have a great day here every day at 11 a.m. Central Time, using Course in Miracles just as a framework to talk about these ideas. Like and follow this channel, and I will talk to you soon. Peace and blessings. Have a good one.